Okay. I hope this microphone works because otherwise, none of this is going to really be quality enough to matter. But welcome to another episode of Getting Naked with Kai. I'm obviously not naked, but the metaphorical meaning will still be in place. I haven't done an episode in a while, maybe more than a week or two. Um, I got clarity today that with my solo episodes, what I really want to focus on is my journey of recovery from complex post traumatic stress disorder, which is the only label that really feels accurate anymore. I've been diagnosed with bipolar, um, depression, anxiety, all the labels. And it really seems like the more I dive in, that what I'm going through is simply a logical recovery process from me being in an environment and in a culture that is completely dissonant with my rhythms, with my nervous system. And so I've accumulated a fuck ton of shame and never felt safe to process emotions. So I have so much unresolved fear and terror and guilt and anger and grief. And my own battles with suicidality, I realize, have been partially the reflection of deep programmed shame, and then partially me not really wanting to, parts of me not really wanting to fully embrace the recovery journey. And I've recently stumbled upon a channel by Tim Fletcher on complex post traumatic stress disorder, and it has like given me the mindset that I needed to realize what I'm going through and to, I mean, I don't embrace it all the time, but to do the best that I can to embrace it. Um, Like he's got a whole sub channel on attitudes necessary for recovery, and courage is number one, and consistency, and then just learning about how when you're raised in complex trauma, you're addicted to chaos and you don't want to slow down and you don't want structure and all these things. And his channel has like changed so much for me. And I was just, after working today outside, I was just laying in kind of a meditative space, listening to some sound bowls, and I all of a sudden got the clarity. I'm like, this is what I want this podcast to be about, at least for my solo episodes, and then potentially when I bring people on, is like, how can we recover our true selves? Because none of us are broken; we're innocent. Um, but yeah, this one, I am gonna be hopping on the train in less than 30 minutes, so this one won't be too long. But I was listening to an episode earlier today on shame, and it was illuminating because the inner critic recently has been so fucking loud, and it's because I'm actually feeling more stable, and I'm actually connecting to people who see me, and I'm actually allowing myself to be more honest, and I'm actually taking care of myself, and I'm actually um, bringing in money for myself. And so this inner critic has been just beating the fuck out of me. And in this video, it was a Tim Fletcher video. He was talking about shame, and he was talking about how one of the flavors that shame can take is literally called the destroyer. And it will go as far as to like destroy you to keep you safe. Because ultimately, shame comes from this like, I need to be safe. And so for me, it's been, you need to shrink yourself, make yourself as small as possible, and consistently beat yourself up to stay safe. And it literally, yeah, has gotten to the point where at some points I've been so afraid that I'm actually going to kill myself because that shame runs wild. And so part of like reclaiming power is me being like, thank you. I hear the shame, I feel the terror, and I choose to move forward. And I know that this will not last forever. I really feel like it's a fucking spiritual war. Like I was thinking this morning, I was taking a dump and I was thinking about the idea of Satan from the Bible. and I'm not going to go into a Christian monologue, but Christianity and Jesus has been most present for me in terms of religious ideologies. And I was raised that way, and so some of the symbology is just really present for me. Um, but Satan is almost like these lies, these survival programs, these fear based belief systems that are in the mind and in the body and in the heart that say you're not safe, you're not allowed to be yourself. And it's like I've been battling Satan this whole time, for the last 19 months. I mean, my whole life, obviously, but only did I become really aware of it after the ayahuasca journey, at the end of 2022. And so it's been warfare. Can't tell if that was a hawk or a crow, but that was fucking cool. That was validation. Um, so I'm probably going to use this episode, or this channel, for me to share my learnings, my integrations, my struggles, my growth. Um, yeah. So today and recently, what's been most present is, so my parents. I've been staying with my parents. Um, they're gone for 2.5 weeks. They left a couple days ago, and I see that this is a time for me to be comfortable being alone, because literally I've never felt comfortable being alone, my entire life. I mean, I have lived alone a lot, but I was constantly numbing myself. I was constantly watching Netflix, playing video games, watching porn. Like, I was never actually alone with myself. I was just running around in flight mode the whole time. And now that I'm bringing more awareness to everything, I see how terrified I've been to be alone and to um, connect to a sense of freedom and responsibility. It's like it has felt like I'm a little child with no sense of containment or safety or protection. Like, the masculine energy has been completely absent. And that's what ayahuasca illuminated for me, is like she blew apart all the mentally created protection and is like, all right, build your protection from the ground floor. And that's what I'm doing now. And it's been so fucking intense. I can't articulate that. Those who have followed me on social have experienced some of my expressions around the intensity and just how much I've wanted to not be here and give up, and just like the darkness that I experience mentally and somatically and the turmoil. It's been beyond belief, but I see it now, and that's what keeps me going, is that I am being presented with an opportunity to, like, literally heal the masculine energy in my lineage from the ground up. Like, what does a healthy masculine energy look like? What does healthy protection and provision, boundaries, direction, self leadership, what does that look like? And so I have felt like a fucking infant the last 2 years almost now. And I still feel like an infant a lot of the times. And what I'm realizing is I need to be okay with that. I want to be okay with that, because adding shame on where I'm at is not going to help. Shame has been the driving force my whole life, shame and fear. And so if I still beat myself up for, like today, I was landscaping with the guy I work with, and sometimes I'll notice that I'll kind of shut down a little bit, and I'll go into like a fawn response. I'll like dissociate and just like people please. And then part of me will say, "Oh my god, dude, don't do that anymore. Why are you doing that? Oh my god, like that's embarrassing. You know better. You shouldn't do that anymore." But I'm also learning to just be fucking kind and just let myself be where I'm at. Um, I've also had a lot of shame around the fact that I still feel rather purposeless. Like, energetically and spiritually, I see what's going on, but in terms of like life direction, I'm very uncertain. I know that Colorado is calling to me. I know that Hawaii is really screaming at me again. Um, I don't feel safe enough in my own energy to leave yet. Like, I haven't cultivated enough stability. I'm learning it now. So there's shame around, there has been shame around, having, like, I basically consistently have just enough money to do things, to go to activities, to go to dances, to eat. Um, I think that the hardest thing too is the fucking unknown. Because without mental models, realizing how free I am is really fucking intense. Like right now, I'm sitting at this gazebo at the train station, and yes, like I have plans to go down to the dance tonight, and I'm gonna be facilitating a little practice at the beginning. But like overall, there's this fear of like, fuck, I'm completely free, and it's so scary. I shared this with a friend. Um, they did an experiment with little kids where they had two groups of kids. They put them both in a playground, and one playground had no fence around it. The other playground had a fence around it, and you would think that the playground with no fence around it, the kids would be running around and they would be much more free, right? But no, because they actually didn't feel contained, they ended up huddling near the middle, and the kids who had the fence around the outside ended up going to the edges of the fence. And so that is the task that I've been given, and I'm sure many of us are on the same path. It's like building healthy containment for myself, understanding the fact that, like, literally, I'm completely free. Like, moment to moment, I'm technically free, and sitting with the intensity of that and finding a way to focus and to ground and to breathe through the fear of that, and to tune it into curiosity, wonder, instead of, oh my god, I feel like I'm floating in the cosmos with no protection, which is how I've felt the last 19 months. And that's why I've wanted to die, because it's just so scary. Like, I'm alone, I don't have anyone to protect me. That's why I've gone to the psych hospital 3 times, just some semblance of safety. And so it's like I'm learning to create that safety for myself by making decisions that feel right, by going to events that feel right, by making money right now, by providing for my material needs. And I'm very much in this in between space, and I have been for a long time. But finally, I'm leaning fully in. Even when I wake up a lot of days and I'm just like depressed as fuck, and I'm like, I can't do this shit. I don't want to do this anymore. This is way too hard. You're asking me to essentially continuously lean into the unknown, continuously lean into fear, continuously lean into like the deepest, darkest, scariest emotions inside of me. I don't want to do this. And then it's also like, it's crazy, because what else is there to do but embrace it, and like understand that it's not purposeless. It's not purposeless. It is for a reason. I'm not just going through this because God's an asshole. He's actually saying like, hey, you're gonna figure this out. Like, you get to start your childhood over and reparent yourself, and it's gonna be intense as fuck, and it'll be the hardest thing you've ever done. But once you start to find your footing, you will experience more peace and alignment and pleasure and play and purpose than you could possibly have imagined. And I feel that in my soul, and that's the reason. I still wake up multiple times a week with this thought of like, I want to kill myself, but it's so clear that that's not the answer. And admittedly, I'm scared of dying, so that's been a good motivator. And there's no easy way to do it. There's been moments where I've like Googled it, and I have one friend who I've talked to a lot about this, and we both kind of joked in our darkest moments, if there was a button we could push, like euthanasia, if we could just hit a button, then we would die painlessly. We would push that button because the intensity was so much. Um, So yeah, I think that's what's alive right now. I'm pretty fucking tired. Doing manual labor and working outside is pretty new for me. I haven't. Yeah, it's new, and I'm also doing some like yoga every morning and um, just doing a lot, doing a lot. Really working with shame, really understanding the inner critic. I will fucking get through this somehow. Uh, but yeah, like the waves are just so intense between like I got this, and then despair will come in, and learning to ride those waves and not listen to the waves is something that I have found helpful. Like if I feel hopeless, just understanding that like that's an experience I'm having and not listening to the experience and reacting from the experience. Because what I used to do, I would feel maybe I feel extreme anxiety or terror. And then what my go to strategy has been is to hide and run. Hide mostly my whole life. Hide. Like just I was extremely isolated and I would hide and just like numb out on porn and video games. And so I'll notice if I'm going through a period of like really deep shame or fear, there'll be a pull to cancel plans, to text my boss like, "Hey, I'm not going to work tomorrow," because I just want to hide away from the world. But what I've been able to do now is notice that impulse and not do it, and that's been a game changer. And it's fucking hard because I've been doing it for 30 years to stay safe. So my nervous system is like, you need to do this to stay safe. But there's also now this higher awareness of that doesn't even feel right. Like if I were to cancel all my plans, like let's say I were to just disconnect from all my friends, quit my job, and decide to live in my parents' basement, that wouldn't. There would be no payoff anymore. There used to be payoffs of relief, and I would play video games, and I would, yeah, there was a safety, but that doesn't even feel safe anymore. So all there is to do is grow, catch the patterns, catch the old patterns, choose differently, and then embody more safety, which comes with experience. It's like every time I choose differently and I go into a situation that would have previously terrified me, a lot of that has to do with social situations because I was bullied so much. When I go into these situations and I show up as myself and I realize I'm not going to die, I'm not getting judged anymore, it becomes easier. But my biggest struggle, and maybe I'll go into this on the next video, we'll see. I'm going to wrap this up here. My biggest struggle is what to do when I'm alone. Because sometimes I'll get in this flow where I'll be exploring, I'll be on my bike, and I'll be living like very intuitively, like, just hanging out, vibing, stretching, like living like a cat. Like I've always felt like a cat. But then I go back to, and this could be part of the challenge, I go back to the place I'm staying, my parents' home, and I tend to just go into checking out. Like I want to just check out. And so that's a point of emphasis for me too, is like where the fuck do I live next? Because I haven't consistently been able to bring in revenue. So where's my next living situation? Is it getting a van? Is it buying DJ equipment and being this mobile facilitator of fun experiences, which I've thought about, like kind of hosting ecstatic dances like out of my van, with like, maybe some doing some qigong and yoga and sharing circle, and then just like DJing and having a party. Like, is that the next step? I don't know. That's what has been fucking hard, is feeling like there's not purpose right now, and just like leaning into fear and discomfort, but with no clear like why. Like I can feel the energy of why. Like I know I'm here for a reason, and I know that my light has a huge impact, and I know that I deserve to be happy, and I have felt moments of joy. But then there's these moments where I think I go back up into my head and I'm like, well, I'm trying to think about my purpose. Like, why am I here? And and then loneliness comes in and despair comes in. And so it's a fucking battle every fucking day. And yeah, I think part of my motivation for this is I mean, one, it just came through as something to do because it feels good. But I know that there are literally millions of people going through this right now. Like I just saw a friend post today that someone she knew committed suicide. And when we have all these unresolved emotions and we have all this shame and we feel like we don't deserve to be here, or we know we deserve to be here, but it feels impossible for us to like connect to why we're here or get to where we want to be. Because that's something that comes up for me is like I see where I want to go, but it feels like how the fuck do I get there from where I'm at? And so if this can be a source of inspiration for one human, I'm grateful because I know that's part of the reason I'm on this planet is to just share my experience out loud and all of the highs and the lows of it. Uh, and that is medicine for me and others. So, all right, I'm going to wrap it here because I'm going to go catch the train. And it feels time to wrap it. Thank you for watching. I hope this audio worked.